In this video, I wanted to explain kind of what to expect really in the first 30 days after having a hair transplant. So I'm going to run through some of the do's and don'ts, some of these sort of common practices, things you want to avoid doing. But I also want to go on to show you kind of what your scalp will look like, or certainly what mine was looked like, any kind of issues that I had, etc. So really just so that by the end of this video, you have a really good understanding of what the first sort of 30 days actually is like really after having your hair transplant. So as you can see in this picture here, you're going to get given this headband. I always wondered why people were coming away from hair transplants. They always had these headbands on, and I thought it was a marketing trick actually, first and foremost. Pretty much every picture I've seen of someone that's just had it has this headband on. I couldn't think of any other reason, but it's actually to stop the swelling. There will be some swelling on the top of your head, and the band is quite sort of tight, elasticated band that stops that swelling sort of going down into your face. So for the first, I'd say probably 3 days after the procedure, you do need to wear that headband throughout the day. I took it off at one point. I think it was on the second day. I thought, I probably don't need this anymore. I felt like the swelling was going down, and I took it off. And sure enough, the swelling did start sort of creep down into my face, and it just kind of made my eyes a bit puffy and things. It's not dangerous or anything. It just doesn't look great. So it's mainly just to keep it the swelling sort of in that top area on your head. So you wear that in the daytime, and then you're supposed to sort of pull it down around your neck to sleep in, because you don't want to be sleeping in it. So that's the first thing. You've got to avoid alcohol for the first 7 days after the procedure. So I often like a glass of wine with a meal and a beer or two at the weekends. But yeah, you want to be avoiding alcohol for the first few days. I'm sure there's some like medical reasons for it, but the other thing as well is you don't want to be getting absolutely hammered and falling over. The one thing probably above all else is that you don't want to be banging your head. So those grafts are they've just got in. The head needs plenty of time to heal and things. They're going to be very sort of loose and easy to disrupt if you bang your head. So definitely going out and having too many beers is not a good idea from that point of view either. Also to avoid smoking as well. I don't know if that includes vaping, but certainly my information pack and my guidance said to avoid smoking for up to 10 days afterwards. If you're a smoker, you might want to speak to them about that, about what you can and can't do. Can you get any nicotine at all, or is it just like cigarette smoke basically that's the problem? You're also going to get a neck brace to sleep in, so it's like a soft, a bit like the neck braces that you see people wearing on an aeroplane where they want to sleep, but obviously they're inflatable ones. The one that the clinic gives you is like a really nice, soft, like good quality, spongy neck brace, and you need to sleep in that for about a week after the procedure, and you also want to be sleeping on your back as best as you can as well. Again, it's so that you don't disrupt the hair. If you're rolling onto your side, you might sort of roll onto and rub the top of your head on your pillow. So you want to try and sleep on your back as best as you can. I've already covered off the next point, which is not to bump your head. It's super, super, super important. And then in terms of the shampoo, they'll give you a shampoo to take home with you, which is a really nice, like good quality shampoo with no harsh chemicals in it or anything like that. You can use that shampoo and the foam that they give you. You don't want to be, in the first few days, you certainly don't want to be just pouring that on and rubbing it into your head. What I was doing after about day 3 was I was just putting some shampoo onto my hand and then making some bubbles, and then just gently pressing down on the top, just gently, just to get some of that shampoo onto the scalp. Once the scabs have all fallen off after 2 weeks, then you can put it more, you can massage it more. You still got to be very, very gentle and careful, but after that point you can sort of massage the scalp a little bit more. Unfortunately, you're supposed to avoid sex for 2 days as well. That's mainly to avoid having an elevated heart rate, but not ideal, but 2 days, I'm sure you'll survive. Avoid strenuous exercise for 1 month. Again, this is about elevated heart rate and also blood pressure as well. So you don't want to be going and getting straight in the gym and caning the gym and pushing your blood pressure too high. You also want to probably just avoid touching the top of your head where you've actually had the implants. I would say just don't touch it for the first week, really. You may get some itching. I didn't really, because it was kind of pretty much numb. If you do get, like, the odd time that I can remember getting an itch, I would just sort of like gently just touch the area, definitely not like scratching it with my nails or anything like that. I would just kind of touch the area until, just to apply a little bit of pressure on it, just until the itch stopped. But you do have to be so careful in the first week or two not to do anything to disrupt those grafts. So that's just something to be mindful of. You need to wear a hat in the sun, but I mean, I'll be talking a bit more later on about the importance of getting a nice and a decent hat as well. But wearing a hat is definitely important in these first 30 days, as it is longer term as well. You need to be wearing a hat in the sun. They say ideally for the first 12 months, but I'd say certainly for the first 6 months, you don't want to be getting your scalp sunburnt. So just be careful when you're out and about in the sun. And as I said, you can massage the scalp with your fingertips after 14 days. That's actually quite important then to start getting the blood flow to the scalp. So it's not just about like cleaning the scalp or anything. It's actually about helping the blood flow as well. So that's kind of the do's and don'ts, I guess, of the first 30 days. But what does it actually sort of look and feel like? So this is day 1 on the left-hand side here. It looks... I'd say definitely it looks worse than it is, because you don't feel anything, because it's lots of tiny little sort of micro traumas, as I sort of call it. It's not like you've got a huge amount of sort of healing of one big wound. It's lots of tiny little incisions that have been made to put the grafts in. So it kind of looks, like a bit sort of bloody and things. You can see on day 2, probably a bit better actually. The scalp actually looks, pretty good, as you can tell. You can tell a nice job's been done on it, but there's just the odd spot of blood. Over time, so the scalp will sort of scab a bit as it all sort of heals, and the small amounts of blood that have seeped out will just sort of rise up, and you will get like a bit of a scabby head for the first week. But I just kept mine covered up. I actually think at first the back of the head actually probably looks worse. That looks like some kind of like alien brain or something there, that picture on the right hand side. That's obviously where they've taken the grafts out of the donor area on the back, and it looks really like harsh. But again, I didn't really feel too much of it, but I'll come on to some soreness that I did get a couple of days later. But one thing I do want to contrast with, particularly around the back, is how quickly the back heals. I mean, the back heals in no time at all. So just a few days later, so now I've skipped to day 6, the back is basically the hair growing again. It's still a little bit pink, but you can see that it's not like, it doesn't look that bad at all. And after about 10 days, you can even have the back of the head shaved if you want. You don't want to be shaving the top of the head, but the back of the head, once the kind of scabs have gone, you can have it shaved if you want to like level out the lengths of the hair. Obviously you can still see where I've had the hair transplant. It's kind of obvious at the back where the donor area is because of the difference in length of the hair, but you can neaten that up anyway after 10 days. But if you just contrast from day 2 how bad it looks there, but how quickly the donor area heals, sorry, I've just skipped ahead, how quickly it heals at the back. So you don't really need to worry about the back really, other than the lengths of it for the first few days. On top, you can see day 7, sort of bit of pinkiness, bit of redness, some scabs as well, all perfectly normal. They kind of want the scabbing to be cleared away and done after about day 12. So you can see here now, this is where I've kind of cleared away on the top of my head. You can see it looks really kind of clean, and you're getting the first signs there of what your hairline is going to be like. And so it's actually day 12 was quite an exciting time, because you've got rid of a lot of that scabbiness. And for me, I was just praying that it would all grow from this point, because I knew about shedding. I knew that there's a pretty good chance that I would shed. So it looked actually, I think, pretty good on day 12. I was just crossing my fingers. Unfortunately, it wasn't to be, as we'll come on to in a minute. I did get some shedding. Now I'm also going to keep showing you the side as well, because this is quite uncommon, but I wanted to share it with you anyway. It wasn't something I was aware of when I'd had my hair transplant, but it is common, and having had it, and also I researched it when it was happening, you can get something called shock loss on the sides of your head. It's normally on the sides anyway. I think partly it's because I I do sleep on my side, and I think I might sort of grind my head into the pillow a bit while I'm sleeping. I've just got a feeling that kind of being too maybe a bit rough with the side of my head while I sleep. It looks quite good here at the side of my head. You can see the hair growing back, and really I think that's fine. But what happened after that, I'll just skip ahead. I'll come back to this one again in a moment. So you can see here on day 21, it then started to fall out again on the side of my head. So this is what's called shock loss. And as I say, chances are you won't get it if it's quite uncommon. But I'm still happy to share it with you because it's not that much of a problem. I mean, I was wearing a cap during this phase anyway, and I said it earlier, but you want to make sure you get a nice cap that you're happy to wear when you're out and about. When you're at home, it doesn't really matter. You can, you look however you want to look. You don't really want people seeing the top of your head. I'd already started the shedding now, and it had gone quite pink anyway. So I didn't really want people sort of looking at my head and wondering what was going on there. But also because I had the shock loss as well, it was just another reason to cover up. But yeah, it did grow back, and there's absolutely no issues with the sides of my head or my hair now. The shock loss was fully gone after, I'd say, probably about 3 months. At worst, it was 4 months, but I'd say by the sort of 3 months point, my shock loss was done with. So if you do get it, just know that it's absolutely normal, and it does always grows back. So try not to worry about it if you do get it. That's why I wanted to mention it, just in case it'd be a concern for anyone if you've already had your hair transplant and you're coming back to just check on what's normal and what's not. So just going back then to the top of my head on day 14, you can see it's really started to shed. There is some growth there, but the main growth is sort of my normal hairline at the back, just growing back basically. But it looks fine, and I did actually go to an event around. It was probably a bit further than day 21, but I had to go to a family gathering. I did go just sort of with a bit of a pinky head, and it was fine. I was a little bit conscious about it. But one thing I would say is, while you're in this sort of planning phase of, thinking about having a hair transplant, just make sure you haven't got any like formal dinners or like a wedding or something like that. You may well find that you're fully healed after about 3 months, and you've got decent amount of growth. For me, it was a little bit longer. Some people heal and it grows straight away, so it's hard to say exactly how long it will take for your recovery. But just kind of, I guess, plan for the worst and hope for the best, right? So you want to just make sure that you're not putting yourself in a situation where you might feel uncomfortable with the fact that you've got a bit of a pink head like that. I don't think you need to worry too much about shock loss because it's so uncommon. But if you're quite happy with the idea of just having short hair and a pink head, like I say, for everything else I did, I was just wearing a cap. I had some fairly smart caps. And you need a hard fronted cap as well. Ideally, you don't want a cap that's kind of like hugging the scalp, because what you don't want is the actual cap sitting right on the hair and going to be tugging out the hairs and things. So like a hard fronted, like an American style cap or something like that, where it's actually sitting off the hair is ideally what you want to be wearing for cap wise. So I just think it's better going in mentally prepared for that first 3 month period of just thinking, whenever I'm out and about, I'm just going to stick a cap on. No one even asked me, like, why are you wearing a cap or whatever. People just don't, do they? It's a bit of a, it's a fashion item anyway, so it's not really a problem at all. It's just that I perhaps wasn't prepared for that side of things, hadn't thought too much about the recovery side. I was more focused on the actual procedure side of things in the build up to it. So this is why I'm just trying to just disclose as much as I can and let you know the expectations, basically.